Good evening, and welcome to the July edition of our live XCTV webinar. So this is an exciting time for us with the Olympics just days away. And in fact, the first track and field events are just 2 weeks away. They start 2 weeks from tomorrow. So it's going to be an exciting time, and it'll be a lot of fun. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight, a little bit about what's going on in the worlds of cross country and track, especially with high school. Once again, I'm Tim Rourke, and joining me in just a few moments will be a woman who certainly knows just what it's like to compete in the Olympic Games, Carrie Tollefson, who represented the USA in the 2004 Olympics in Athens. And we're just delighted to have you join us for our webinar. And we will hope to celebrate the aspects of the sport that we all love, the cross country and track. And as we mentioned, a little bit more of a focus on our high school events. And just a reminder that we're here every second Wednesday of the month, leading up to and through all the way to the fall and culminating in national championships in November and December. So we hope that you'll continue to join us and share this information with your friends. It's a lot of fun for everybody. And again, just like we all have always have been doing, we're going to bring to you some of the finest coaches and athletes in the nation. So far in our series, we've had a heck of a group. We've had the BYU coaches, Diljeet Taylor and Ed Idestone. We had the NCAA champion this year, Connor Mance. We've had Olympians, Dina Kasher, Jen Rhines, Alan Culpepper, Lauren Fleshman, Dathan Ritzenheim. And we've had some of the future stars of our sport. We've had Graydon Morris, Jenna Hutchins, Aiden Puffer, and a few others. And we're going to have some more with us tonight. So we encourage you to join in at any point during our webinar. You can hit on the chat button at the bottom of your screen, type a question. If we use your question on the webinar, we're going to send you a $25 gift card. So please feel free to do that at any time. So let's get started. Let me bring in one of the most successful distance runners in U.S. history. She is an Olympian, as we mentioned earlier, also a national champion, an NCAA champion, a team NCAA champion, an individual champion, and a three-time Foot Locker All-American, Carrie Tollefson. Welcome, Carrie. This is an exciting time for us, isn't it?
Hey, Tim. Every time I see that video that Rich put together, I just get fired up. I wish I could be young again, racing at Foot Locker and experiencing all the great things that this sport has given me. So I am getting a little old, but I still love everything about it and can't wait for the Olympics to start. What a great way for us to kind of get back to normal and to really be cheering on all the runners from all over the world.
You know, it must be exciting for you to relive that. I mean, I'm sure you relive it every day. If I had been Olympian, I'd have tattooed it on my forehead. But I mean, every 4 years, you must get a little bit more of a feeling in your throat and your heart, huh?
You do. And you know what? I never got the tattoo. And like lately, I've been seeing all the athletes that have gotten the tattoo. And I'm like, maybe I need to do that on like my 50th birthday or something like that. But yeah, I think the older you get, the more you realize how hard you worked and that dreams do come true. And, you know, when you set a goal and you achieve it, it's something special. It doesn't happen very often in life. And it doesn't have to be the Olympic Games. It can be whatever goals you have. But it was pretty special. And yeah, every time the Olympics roll around, it's fun for not only myself, but my family and all my training partners. It's a group effort.
Sure, all your kids, they must really, they're going to get to the point where hey, mom did that, huh? Pretty good.
Yeah, right. They don't always, they think I'm getting slower and slower, which I am, but I still can beat them.
They're getting faster. That's the problem. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, we said we'd like to have a little fun tonight, and we got a couple of guests with us that should be a really enjoyable experience. And boy, could they shed some light on the Olympic experience, since they both have taken part in several of them. So let me start first by introducing the director of track and field for cross country and Stanford, or cross country and track at Stanford, JJ Clark. Coach Clark, we're just delighted to have you join us. Let me give you a little introduction here so the folks that may not be aware of your bio. So he's been at Stanford since 2019. And before that, he spent 5 years at Connecticut. And before that, 14 years at Tennessee, where Tennessee won a couple of national championships under his direction. He was an assistant coach in the 2008 Olympic team, and he coached 2 USA World Championship teams. And at the 2000 US Olympic trials, I don't think anybody has ever come close to this. He coached his wife and his 2 sisters, so Gerald and Hazel and Joetta, to a sweep in the 800, and they all advanced to the Sydney Games. So that must have been one heck of a family gathering that night. Boy, oh boy. He also coached his wife, the 800-meter American record. She ran 156.40. That record lasted almost 20 years. So Coach Clark is a graduate of Villanova. Coach Clark, for some reason, it seems to be we have a lot of Villanovans on this broadcast all the time. I think that has something to do with Kerry. But in his own right, he's run 3:41 for 1,500. So the man's got the credentials. And he went to Stanford, as we mentioned, just a couple of years ago, and his impact has been immediate. The men and women swept the Pac-12 cross-country championships this year with a combined total of 58 points for both of them, and then went on to the NCAA championships. And the only school to have teams place both men's and women in the top 5. The women were 3rd, and the men were 5th, with 4 freshmen on that team. So, Coach Clark, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here. It's my first time on the show, and I was like Kerry when I saw the video. It just reminded me of all the years I remember most of those finishes. I've come to the meet several times, and it was exciting to see that. So thank you again for inviting me to the show.
Well, it is our pleasure, literally our pleasure. And before we move a little bit further on and discuss why Stanford seems to get more Foot Locker All-Americans than any other school in the country every year, let me introduce another member of the Clark family, and that's, of course, Hazel. We just mentioned 3-time Olympian. Hazel was a member of the U.S. Olympic team in 2000, 2004, 2008. She won 6 national titles and twice placed first in the Olympic trials. So her personal best is 157.99. She did that in Oslo in 2005. And she went to Florida, was a member of the Gators track team, where she was undefeated in SEC competition. She won 5 NCAA championships and was inducted in the University of Florida Athletic Hall of Fame as a Gator great in 2012. So we'd like to welcome Hazel Clark. Hazel?
I don't know if Hazel's on right now.
Okay, well, we know she's trying.
Yep.
So we'll add her when we get going. So we'll keep an eye out for her, and we can focus a little bit with JJ if you don't mind. JJ, this is an interesting time. The Olympic trials are just over, and we're just a couple of weeks away from the Olympic Games, and it's been kind of odd. Yesterday you saw Isaiah Harris, in the 800-meter run. He was 4th in our trials, and yet he beat the winner and the 3rd place runner in that meet. We've seen Kate Grace running all over Europe, running PR after PR, running faster than the qualifiers in the trials. You had Craig Ingalls, who is the fastest American at 1,500 going to the trials, and none of them made the Olympic. Donovan Brazier. I mean, if we were sitting around, the 3 of us right now, and we were going to bet before the trials, who's a lock? Who's an absolute lock? You said, well, Brazier in the 800, he's going to be the Olympic champ, much less make the Olympic. So it must be so difficult. You've had so much success with guiding athletes to the trials, through those rounds into the finals. How difficult is it to make that Olympic team? They always say it's the hardest team to make, but how hard is it to produce that moment, that time, that day, that place?
Well, America has so much talent, year after year after year. And it doesn't matter your past credentials, doesn't matter who you are. On that day, that one day, you have to be on. You have to be right. You have to be mentally ready. You have to be physically ready. And even if you're not physically ready, you have to run like you're ready. And that's where the difficulty comes, is being ready on that day. And sometimes it doesn't pan out for you. That doesn't mean you're not a great runner. It just means that day you weren't on your game for whatever reason. So I noticed, as you mentioned, there were a lot of great American athletes running well. And I've seen before where athletes have not made the team, end up number 1 in the world. So it still means that you're a great runner. Just on that day, it's hard, and the pressure and you can have a little cold. I mean, my wife ran at one of the best workouts I've ever seen anyone run, and she went to Australia and caught an Australian flu, and the flu over there, and it just wasn't her day. And you have to figure out how to have that short-term memory and move on, like our American athletes have done. Short-term memory, or pissed off, whatever one you want to say, and you go and wreak havoc all over the world by running very fast. So I think we've seen a little bit of that, but it's very difficult, and you have to have it all on the right day. And that's why someone like years ago, Edwin Moses, having that streak and winning all those years in a row, is just amazing not to have an off day.
Yeah. You know, one of your Stanford alum, Grant Fisher, though, goes and makes two Olympic
Two.
teams in his very first Olympic trials. And not just, you know, those are big races, the 5 and the 10K. They were run in, you know, severe heat, especially the 10K. So, or excuse me, the 5K for them. Like, let's talk a little bit about what you guys teach at Stanford, but also like why you think a guy that's won Foot Locker 2 times, he just has it in him. What is it? Like, you can't always coach that, right? Because it just kind of comes with individual.
So some people love the big stage. Some people look at it as pressure. Grant is a huge talent. I watched him through college. I've seen him when he was younger. I'm watching him now. He just runs so well. He puts himself in the races in the right position all the time. He runs great races. His timing on being where he's supposed to be at the right time is excellent, kind of innate. So you're right. You have to kind of have that, and you can be taught how to do some of it, and then some of it is just who you are. It's just who you are. I remember Maria Mutola, someone like her. She's always in position at the right time. Always. You can't find races that she's not in position. And Grant showed that at the trials. He was in the proper position at the right times, and he got there in that position correctly without using too much energy, going out too fast. He just did it all right, and it was great to see.
I think we have a Gator great has joined us there. Hazel, well, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. We were just talking a little bit about you before we were talking with JJ about the trials. And you, first off, thank you so much. We really appreciate it for you joining us.
I'm so glad to be on. Sorry that I had a few difficulties, but I'm happy to be on.
If you haven't had a difficulty on a Zoom webcast in the last 18 months, then you are not on a computer somewhere. So we consider this to be great. Well, hey, thanks so much. We were just talking, you know, you made 3 Olympic teams and twice you were the Olympic trials champ. And what we were talking about is this year was odd in the trials. Some really, really good people did not make the Olympic team, but you had great success there. How do you get it going on that right day? What do you think makes a difference?
You know, I just finished our Clark family running camps, and some of the young people asked me about that. It's such a pressure cooker. And I just remember, you know, my first Olympic trials, there was a lot of energy around the Clark family sweep. Can they go 1, 2, 3? You know, what will it take? And I remember feeling this crushing pressure. And my brother took my phone away and said, you just need to focus in and block out all of the noise. And I think it's really important for any athlete to be able to block out the noise and go into that place where they're just really calm. Their mind is calm and they're ready to execute. And at the end of the day, my sister-in-law gave me the best advice. There's nothing to fear. All you can do is lay it out on the line at that moment and do the best that you can do. I think Chanel Price is a great example that comes to mind. You know, she didn't make the team, but she felt such pride knowing that she gave it her best. So I think that's how I got through those really challenging rounds at the trials and was able to kind of come out on top. And it definitely took a big effort.
I just, for 1 second, want to be in that Clark household. And I've had Hazel on my podcast, but I've spoken with JJ before the NCAAs, and I don't know, you could probably already feel it, but the energy. And I know that you guys had roller coaster rides with, you know, injuries and illness and trying to figure out how to handle all that, you know, those female hormones when they're your wife and your sisters and all these things. But just to hear the passion that you guys have for the sport and to figure out how to make it more than just running, right? But right. JJ, I just want to know, what was it like sitting around the table the night before the Olympic trials when you're like talking to your wife and your 2 sisters?
Well, first of all, I'm looking at myself in the mirror and go, why is your wife in the 800 when she's the fastest 400? What are you doing? But after I got over that, it was very, it was good energy, but it was kind of like they're looking at each other a little bit here and like, you know, only 3 make this thing. That was in the air. And you had, I don't know how many people make it in 40 or 50 making, then you cut down every round, and you got Meredith and some others there that can spoil it easily. And so it was a little tension, but at the same time, they knew that they were prepared, and they were all of them were big day performers. They showed up and showed out. and always did that. So it was this kind of Team Clark thing going that people didn't really know about it. They trained together, they worked together, they support each other, got on each other when necessary. But it was just, we can do it. Let's all go do it. And so it was a positive energy, but it was a little tight, it was a little tense. And I was trying to act cool and poised and actually a funny story. I did martial arts for years. I didn't know what to do. I called my karate instructor, and then I was like, I don't know, man. He gave me some advice, and I kind of brought it back to them. So it was a good situation. It ended up in a fairy tale ending, and I was hoping of all the people, I wanted them all to make it, but the one that was the toughest to handle was Joetta. If she didn't make it, the whole world would stop for a day, and she made it very interesting.
I have to jump in and disagree on that, JJ. I feel like if I didn't make it, I kept saying, like, I don't want to be the loser left behind. They made multiple teams, and all I could envision was like, your whole family goes to Olympic Games and you're left. I think it would have crushed any of us in different ways. But at least she made teams. This was my first one, so I felt like if I didn't make it, it just seemed like it would just be some crushing.
See, but I was coaching you in college, so I had a good handle on you, God forbid if something had happened. Joetta, she's older than me. She's out of college years ago. I wasn't really with her every day. You know, we just go and scream together and somewhere and yell and scream and then hug, and then we'd be okay. See, so that was something. But Joetta would have been, who knows, I don't know. But it all worked out. I remember leaving the drug testing, and this is what I said. I said, man, this feels just like practice. That's what I said. It was a good feeling. It was really? We had a great, yeah, that's what I said.
That was so stressful. You guys are breaking the backstory here that I never even knew he thought it felt like practice, because I was like rocking in my room, completely anxious. I was ready to jump. I was going crazy.
After we did it. I said, I was leaving the field, we were all together laughing. Oh, this was just like practice. And I did tell someone else, they said practice, you know. Yeah, you know, so it was a little more intense than that, but it felt that way after we were leaving the field. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and I can't believe it was so long ago at this point. But it's the only family that's ever done anything like that, and it took a lot of strategizing. You know, I couldn't be with one person too long. Then you go home with your wife, and you know, it was just a lot of doing it right and psychologically making sure everybody's where they need to be, and that was the draining part. The workouts were pretty much easy actually for me to draw.
Well, you're still doing it right, because you made sure that Gerald had the link to the show tonight. That was first and foremost. Got to make sure the wife can watch online. So shout out to the wife. Absolutely. But Hazel, I want to know a little bit about JJ, because first of all, you know, he's got some bragging rights. He ran at the Foot Locker Regionals.
Yes.
And so he can take that home tonight and brag.
Yes.
Ladies. But also, you know, you guys stuck with him for a long time. And as family members, it's hard to, you know, always not necessarily put trust in someone, but to get along all the time. Yeah. But you three ladies stuck with him. And what kind of coach is he? I mean, we know he's a great brother, great husband, all that, great father, all that stuff. He's got great teams all the time. He's got great individuals. So what kind of coach is he?
What I like about JJ is that he coaches the total person from inside out. So, I mean, the first thing for him is to make sure that you're emotionally strong, that you know, are academically strong, that, you know, your priorities are in order, and that you're actually living like the life of a champion, not just running fast, you know, but really living a life that's going to, in the long run, be beneficial to you. Some of the things that he instilled in me and my teammates, I look around and they're amazing. Like, they're amazing in the corporate world. They've got these great jobs, and we all like laugh because so many things he instilled in us, some that we didn't like, are now still a part of us and have helped us to be successful beyond track and field. And I think that's the important thing about him as a coach. He really pours into you. And it's almost like you have no excuse for not being successful, because he's going to give you his best. And so in return, you really feel like you want to give your best back. And what he's been able to do with athletes that have come in running a 220 something and then running 158. Like I always say, JJ is a coach. He coaches people that are walk-ons to become the world's best. And when you can do that, I mean, that's just something that's undeniable. So I'm so proud of that record that he has, and that he always produces not just good athletes, but student athletes and people.
Love it.
Boy, there's your recruiting pitch, JJ. Just put her on your website there. You're in.
Push the button.
That's it. Hey, we have a lot of kids that have been tuning in over the last couple of months and asking questions, and they're all concerned about, I didn't get to do all I wanted to do in track or all I want to do in cross country, and will college coaches find me, and will college coaches know, I'm out there. And I know, Hazel, you're advising kids all the time too. So what's the best thing to tell kids now as they're entering their senior year and nobody's seen them for a year, they think?
Right. Well, the first thing I say is just continue to be a good student athlete and do well in school and run and it usually takes care of itself. But don't forget, nowadays with the social media and the emails and the Instagram, all that stuff, there's no reason you will be seen, you will be heard. You can reach out to the coaches, you can send information, you can send video links, you can do whatever you need to practice, time trial, whatever. I had so many time trials last year, and people send me links and time trials, and just keeping in touch, updating me. And these are things that you can do during this period where we have not been seen as much, but just keep doing what you're doing and you'll end up where you're supposed to be. I always believe that. So yes, you can reach out to the coaches and you can make yourself visible in today's world.
And don't count yourself out. I had some of my young people at camp say, I'm not good enough to go to a Stanford. I'm not good enough to go to this school. And I said, sometimes you can send a video and send your story and, let a coach know I didn't get races, or I had mono, or I had a stress factor, or whatever it is that might have held you back. And they can look at your tape and say, there's something more in that athlete. And, I like their profile, or I like the range that they have. So at least put it out there. At the worst, somebody's going to say, no, you're not the right fit for the school. But I think there are coaches, again, like JJ's really good about, he's picked up people that were running on the side of the street and said, hey, oh yeah, I played a little bit of soccer, and then they turn around and they're an SEC scorer or whatever. So I just think you can never count yourself out. And you just need to always, as JJ said, be visible as you can be.
Outstanding. And if you're a 220 girl, you go to Stanford, you'll run 158.
Hey, he's done it. This man can do it if anybody can.
This was a lot of fun. We have to move on. We have some other people waiting, but thank you so much. Hazel was great. Thank you for giving up your time. JJ, welcome to the West Coast. All right.
Thank you.
And
yes, thank you,
you're doing a great job up there. It's a lot of fun. We didn't even get a chance to talk about whether you should have qualified for Foot Locker or not. So we'll give you the last 30 seconds. So what really happened in that last part of that race in your regional? You get to tell your story.
20 seconds. I was running. I was in the top 4. We had about, I don't know, from the bridge in, about, 1,000, maybe a little bit more to go 1,200. And I fell at Van Cortlandt Park, a rock. I fell. I got up. I forget the exact places. I knew we took 7. I took somewhere around 9th, 10th, 11th, somewhere around there. I got back up, and I kind of missed out on making the final. That was heartbreaking as a senior. And Joetta was there. She saw I had fallen. My back was bleeding because as I went by, she screamed, "He fell, he fell." So it wasn't meant to be. And everyone thinks I'm an 800-meter runner anyway, and I've never run it in college but once. But so people don't know I was actually good in cross country. So.
341 for 1,500. You got credentials. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm moving a little bit.
Well, hey,
but,
to the Foot Locker. You come down to San Diego to the Foot Locker, and Carrie and I will buy you lunch at the hotel down. And
I'm going to hold you. I'm going to hold you to that.
You got it.
Well, and Hazel can come show us a twirl or two because she was a figure skater, and you can figure skate. You can skate on the beach.
Yes.
Hazel.
No, Carrie. No,
yes.
we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
Yeah, well, Hazel can come show you.
There you go. That's my girl. That's why I love Carrie. I got an axle waiting for you. I still got it. Got it.
I'm not going to see it.
All right. That's the deal then. We'll see you guys in December in San Diego then. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Good night to you both. Thanks.
Bye.
That was great fun. So much. All right. We've been talking. We were talking about the Olympic trials. It was an interesting trials from a lot of standpoint. But if you look at the Olympic team from the distance standpoint, so in other words, if you take the 5 distance events, the 800, the 15, or excuse me, the 1500, the 5, the 10, the steeple, and the marathon. So that's 5 events, 3 men, 3 women each one. So that's 30 spots that our Olympic team had. Well, it's interesting to note, of those 30 spots, 6 of those people were athletes that didn't grow up in the U.S. that became U.S. citizens after high school. So that's 24 spots. But of those 24 spots, 21 of those 24 spots were taken by kids who ran really well in high school and were at an elite level already. It's interesting. So if you break down those spots, 13 of those runners, 13 of those spots of you were from people who ran in the Foot Locker cross country championships. And 6 of those were people who ran in the NXN series. And then 2 of them did both Foot Locker and NXN. So those 15 people that ran in Foot Locker, that really had a bearing on their development, I think you'd have to say. It's one of the great things about Foot Locker. But there's still a place for others. I don't care. 3 of them never ran in any of those things in high school, and they made it. So, we like just take a back. We've been every month take a look who's hot in the sport and that kind of stuff. So, Carrie, let's look at the 15 people who made those 24 spots, 15 of the 24 who ran in Foot Locker as high school kids.
Yeah, so the first guy we're looking at, he ran in 2006. He's an Olympic gold medalist from 2016. He's back on the team this year, and his name is Matt Centrowitz. He's going back to Tokyo, hoping to be close to that spot. He can't go any higher. So he was 8th in 2006 and just loved the experience. The next one we're going to look at is Corey McGee. So Corey McGee, she ran and also was a counselor or coach, however you want to say it, at the Foot Locker Cross Country Championships. She was there 2 times. She actually made it there as an 8th grader, but the rules don't allow her to run. So in 2006 and in 2007, she ran, placing 15th and 17th, and she made her first Olympic team this year in the 1500, where she was 2nd. And oh, is she having a heck of a year. The last 2 years, actually, Tim, have been really good for Corey. Our next athlete, Yared Nuguse. You guys, if you don't know him, you need to know him. He made this 1500 meter team for Tokyo this year. He ran in Foot Locker not too long ago in 2016, but he did not make the final. He was 16th in the South region. But get this, he holds the NCAA record now for 1500 meters. He is so good. He is such a talent. And he is going over with a great team in the 1500, Matt Centrowitz, and our next guy, Cole Hawker. We're going to show you Cole Hawker here. Lots of people know Cole. He won the Foot Locker Championship and he won NXN in 2018. I mean, such a stud, such a great athlete. Look at that. I mean, even then when he was younger, he just had so much grit and determination. We saw him win the 1500 meters at the Olympic trials while staring down the Olympic gold medalist, Matt Centrowitz. So Cole has a lot of confidence, but he's such a good guy. We always have good guys and gals that run at Foot Locker. So excited to see him compete as well. Our next gal here, she ran the 5,000 meters and qualified for the Olympics this year. Rachel Snyder, she ran in 2008 when she too did not make it all the way to the finals, but she was 19th in the Northeast region. Having a stellar year. She's running PRs and everything from the 1500 meters up. She is just an amazing athlete. She is getting married to Mike Smith, who is also a coach at NAU. Just an amazing duo right there, and so fun to see her competing and doing so well. Our next athlete, Woody Kincaid. You guys got to keep your eyes on him. First time Olympian this year in both the 5,000, and then Tim will tell you about him again after I'm done here, but he ran Foot Locker in 2010 where he placed 11th. And Kara Goucher, one of our very own, just said he goes blackout crazy when he's competing and he has his final kick in the last 2 or 4. He is so good to stay in the race and to show what he's made of in that final kick. So guys, you got to watch out for Woody Kincaid in the 5,000 and the 10,000. And our last guy, probably one of the most known in Foot Locker history. He's a 2-time champ from 2013 and 2014. He too is someone that Tim's going to talk about again, but he made the Olympic team in both the 5,000 and the 10,000. Grant Fisher is one guy that is so composed at such a young age and has been forever. He's a Stanford grad, like we talked about with JJ. And I'm going to have him on my podcast coming up next week. And he's just a class act of a guy. So really excited, but congratulations to all the 1500 meter runners and the 5K runners. We're excited for you and always pulling for our Foot Locker family.
Yeah, it was an exciting trials. All these people running so well. You mentioned Woody just a minute ago, him and Grant in the 5 and the 10. Woody was at the Foot Locker there in 2010. So, it's been 11 years since high school. That's what it takes. But man, Woody has just gotten faster and faster and faster. And, I think he and Grant, they're both going to be in the 10,000. I just see those two as having that chance, to get in a race where the pace is good, solid pace, and to stay with it. I just think Grant is at that point where he can run with anybody, anywhere. And if he can do that, you see like what Emma did when she won the world championship in the steeple, if you can just stay with him and then that last 200 or 400, Grant could do it for a 600 meter sprint. Woody could do it for 200. There's a chance they'll medal, a good chance they'll medal. It's exciting times for both of them. And, I love Grant Fisher just as the steady guy that he is. I think that, I think you saw that in both races in the 5 and the 10. And then on the 10s in the women's side, we get to talk about Emily Sisson a little bit here. 4 times she made it to Foot Locker, and I think that can't be understated is that movement. This is the Foot Locker is the first time kids are sent on their own. They don't get to go with their coaches. They have to be on their own, and they have to be just like they are when they get to college and international competition. And I think Foot Locker is a big beginning step with that. Emily has matured and has gotten stronger and stronger, and ran a great race. That 10,000 was impressive to watch. She just got faster and faster and faster and faster, and it was hot as heck. And it just said everybody else in the race, I'm just going to keep picking it up. I'm going to keep picking up. And that was exactly how we've all been yelling at people at trials to run for the last 20 years, the people who don't run that way, who are the best going in. And she made no doubt about it. It was a great race. And I think that she's learned a lot about race. I think that should be great. The other one in the 10 will be Joe Klecker. And that was a great story. Emma's on our screen right now, so we'll talk a little bit about Emma. Emma Coburn didn't make it to the finals, Foot Locker Nationals. She was 29th in the Midwest region, but it just goes to show you that people do get better and better. And Emma is a great story. You ever watch the workouts that she does? If you're on one of the sites that shows the workouts, Emma is as hard a working person as there is, just in phenomenal shape, and has gotten better and better and raced into being really one of the best in the history of our sport, certainly in the US, and has a good chance to repeat, to be up on the medal stand in the steeplechase. Had a little bit of a hiccup the other day where she fell going over the last barrier, but I think that's good. You got to have a little bit of a hiccup somewhere along the way. So I think she got that out of the way here. So I just didn't want to let Joe Klecker go by without a mention, though. Joe ran both the NXN and Foot Locker in high school. Didn't make either one as far as the didn't win the championship or anything like that, like Grant. But Joe is a hardworking guy and ran a great race. Again, with Grant and Woody taking that pace out so hard and Joe hanging in there, it was an impressive race. So, we got 3 great young men in that 10,000. I think you're going to see them maybe in 24 again also. So we got some real experience and some real good running going on. And speaking of experience, holy cow, let's go to the marathon for a minute. Galen Rupp. Galen's a great Foot Locker story. He was in 2002 and 2003. It's been almost 20 years. When Galen was a junior, he dropped out. He was dead last in the race. Shows you what tenacity will do. Came back the following year, ran one of the great races with Shadrach and Withrow, and finished second place in that, and then has been unstoppable since. He is already an Olympic medalist. He's going back in the marathon. This should be another great experience. He has the experience, and as we know from how well Meb's done over the years, in the marathon, that's anybody's race on a given day. And there's nobody going to be in that race with more Olympic experience than Galen. So that should be very exciting. Then another a real plotter, a little racer along with him, just as tough as nails, Jacob Riley. So Jacob Riley was 14th in the Nationals in 2006 at Foot Locker. He's been getting better and better. Again, it's a 14, 15-year cycle to get here. and he has moved up in the distance, up through the 5, up through the 10, into the marathon. And there may not be a tougher American distance runner right now than Jacob Riley. So he should do well. He's been doing very well in the distance for quite a while now. So that should be great. And then on the women's side of the marathon, former Foot Locker champ, Molly Seidel. That Wisconsin gal has been really pushing the limit, the distance, and found it in the marathon. So she should represent us well in the marathon again. And just like we said, on any given day. So we're very excited. So 15 of our former Foot Locker folks, all in the Olympics. Carrie, who do you really want? Who are you excited to watch in that group?
Oh my gosh, that is a tough question. I want to see them all run well and have a wonderful experience, but let me go with the women. I'll do the women.
Okay.
I'm thinking it is Emma Coburn's time to shine. She's already medaled. She's already, done so well at both World Champs and the Olympic Games, but I don't know. I think that fall that she had just a week ago is going to just get her so fired up to be in there, to run smart, to be really aware. And she really has raced over the flat distances so well in the last year that I think her speed is so fast right now that she's had to catch up with the hurdling. And I think now she's had her time and she's been practicing the hurdle. So I'm looking at Emma. But I also have always loved watching Emily Sisson race, whether it's at the high school level, the NCAA level, or now as a pro. She's so determined to run well. She has her head on straight. She loves racing. And I think that in itself just puts you in a league of your own. When you love to race, you're not scared of it. That to me just, screams success. And I think that the way she ran the 10,000 in that heat, and all by herself, Tim, basically pushing that race from 1 mile out. She also has done really well. She's run a number of sub 15-minute 5Ks this year. She's coming off of a great couple years of running the marathon. She just has this huge engine, but also has some speed. So Emily Sisson, I'm watching. I think she's going to have a big breakthrough race at the Olympics. And if she has a breakthrough race, she's going to be right there, in the hunt for a medal.
You're right. I love that trials race, that 10,000. I don't think she ever turned around and looked back ever.
No.
I think it was just, I'm going to pick up the pace and I'm picking it up and I'm picking it up. I'm out here by myself and nobody can run with me if I do. That was one of the best races I've ever seen. I just love that race. So and on the men's side here. So if 18 months ago, if we were talking, I said, that Cole Hocker kid, he can win a medal in the Olympics. What? He's a good high school kid. He's a good high school kid, and he ran well. And he's holy cow! In the last 18 months, if we had a chart of his progression, it would look like the Road Runner. It just has gone up and up and up. And right now, he ran a lousy race in the trials and yet won the trials. He was in trouble and he was looking around and trying to get out, using up energy, and he still pops out of that group. And you're right, he comes and looks down, Matt, as they come to the finish line. But I wouldn't put anything past that kid at this point. And there's a lot of 1,500 runners that have come out in their young 20s and have done very well there. And again, if that race comes down to where they don't go out, terribly fast and it's just a good pace, there's no reason why he can't kick with anybody in the world and certainly win a medal. But how do you go against the defending champ? Shoot, that's a good one. And then I mentioned earlier, I just love Grant Fisher. I just think it's his time. I think he races well. I think he's very smart, and I think he can go with anybody. And I just think that race will be the way it is. I think he'll go with the pace, and if he can hang in there, almost a Billy Mills kind of will be back in Tokyo. So maybe there's the ultimate connection there. Billy Mills comes off that last lap. Maybe it'll be, look at Fisher, look at Fisher, look at Fisher. Maybe that's what we'll be watching when it comes down the line. So that's what I'm excited about. Just 2 weeks from tomorrow. So pretty exciting. Huh?
It's so exciting, and we wish them all the best. And, the nice thing about it is whatever happens, they're still going to be amazing people, and, we'll be cheering for them no matter what.
We will. We'll invite him down to hang out with JJ and Hazel. Did you say you were going to be skating with Hazel also?
I'll watch her, but seriously, she's a very good figure skater. Her dad, I think she had a bad fall, and her dad, Joe, who is famous, Joe Clark, said enough of that. Get on the track, and then she had to take up track. So Great athlete all around.
Whatever the Clarks did, they would have been the best in the world at whatever they
Exactly.
did. You know what? That's an exceptional group of people. All right, hey, so let's move on. So we've been talking about all these great kids, these great Foot Locker alums. Let's talk about what's coming up. So 15 of those 24 U.S. spots by Foot Locker, and we're getting ready. Already talking about the 2021. Yes, there is a Foot Locker Championship in December in San Diego. We're back in business. Everything's going strong. Plans are being made, and that means all the regional coordinators are working hard. And so we had Max Mayo from the South last month, and this month the Midwest coordinator. He has been the Foot Locker Midwest coordinator since 1984. And so let's welcome Mr. Peter Hankins. Welcome, Pete.
It's great to be here talking about cross country this summer. Last year was kind of rough. I'm excited. People did a lot of creative things to get through last year. It's going to be wide open. It's going to be exciting. I love cross country. I mean, one of my jobs, my job title at the university is cross country administrator. I don't think anybody's got that job in the country. So I'm really stoked about cross country, and Foot Locker cross country is my favorite event of the year. There's nothing like it. When we started this event, it put distance running on a pedestal that's never happened. All of a sudden, cross country got exposure. And through Kenny and Foot Locker, I really think this has been such a huge boost for U.S. distance running.
The results are in the pudding there. 15 of those kids out of that 24 all had run Foot Locker at some point. It's going strong. So Pete, you mentioned, yeah, it was a challenging year. Everybody's talking kind of like we're getting back to normal. So in the Midwest, do you foresee a cross country season to be just as normal as it always was, or do we see some maybe tentative stuff early on, or what?
Well, actually, last year we were ready to put on the meet. We could have hosted it. Kenosha, Wisconsin, the health department was fantastic. We had 13 meets last fall, and we ran them safely with great accolades. We had one called the Ranger, where we had an open race where collegiates could run as unattached individuals. And of the top 12, 11 of them were Foot Locker finalists. Huh. So it was Olin Hacker, Hirsch. I mean, it was just great. So we're ready for cross country in the Midwest again.
Very
When
good.
aren't we ready for cross country in the Midwest, Peter?
Actually, we're going to have a race on August 7th. Foot Locker is partially sponsoring it. It's an open race. It's in the evening. There's a 3K and a 5K on the Foot Locker course. So people who haven't had a chance to run the course prior to the regional, August 7th, we'd love to have you come up.
I love that. I think about the Midwest region, and you never know what you're going to get right around Thanksgiving time. Sometimes you run through 6 inches of mud, like I ran in 2 years in a row. Sometimes you have snow, sometimes you have warm. But I do think that would be so smart for the athletes to go check it out in August. I mean, we have a pretty long-standing history at the finals where the Midwest kicks some royal butt. So Peter, I gotta know, because I love hearing Tim's voice, and he knows that. I get so excited when I hear Tim's voice. That means Foot Locker season. But I also love hearing you speak too, because that means it's Midwest. That's the Midwest coach. He's the guy that gives us the final pep talk. So what do you think it is about the Midwest?
Good athletes. I mean, I figure my role there is to make the situation as comfortable as possible for the athletes. They're doing some things they've never done before with introductions and things like that. You're not their coach. You're there to help them and their coach. We'll talk to them about the race, how it's set up historically, and answer any of their questions and make them feel comfortable. And there is a team aspect to it. I mean, some of these kids aren't really on good teams, and it means a lot to them to be part of a team. And it's like an Olympic team per se, a little bit. It's an all-star team, and there is a pride. In the olden days, before we had social media, sometimes your year, Carrie, I mean, the times were horrendously slow. And then the night before the race at the dinner, they show the video. And all of a sudden, everybody says, oh, those Midwest kids, they aren't really that slow. You know what
Yeah,
they
exactly.
But
I'm
cross
gonna have
country
to
is cross.
admit, yeah, that's true. Those Midwest kids have been doing pretty well lately, that's for sure. And speaking of Midwest, let's bring some on. Peter, you can stay with us, if you would, please, here. So we've been talking to some of the past. Let's talk about the future. We've got 3 runners who certainly have a chance of not only qualifying for the Foot Locker Nationals this year, but also they're going to be on everybody's list of potential individual champions. So let me start with the ladies first. Both of them, they've already been to the Nationals already. So our first is our top returners. We didn't have a 2020 race. You know, Pete, you said you had 11 races in your area. We didn't have any in California, so we're just dying for some cross country. So anyway, in 2019, she finished 3rd, and that was her 2nd year. She finished 3rd both times in her freshman and sophomore year. She's one of only 10 girls ever to break 17 on the San Diego course. She's been the Michigan State cross country champ 3 times. She was state champ this year on the track at 32. So Abby Vanderkooi, welcome back, Abby. Thank you for joining us again.
Thanks for having me.
How's everything been going with you training-wise?
It's been going pretty good recently. Yep.
Okay, well, let's bring in a couple more and then we can have a little group discussion here. So another returner here, she'll be a senior at Cherry Creek this year in Colorado, 17th in 2019, and 6th in the Midwest Regional. This year in track, Colorado State champ at 800, 1600, 3200, 4x8. Man, I think the other people in Colorado are glad there's a 4 event limit on you guys there. And then 2nd of the Brooks PR, running 4:40.66 for the full mile. Colorado State champ in cross country twice. Riley Stewart, welcome, Riley. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
My gosh, you were a busy girl at the state track meet, weren't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was pretty crazy, but it was such a great opportunity, and I was so happy to have be back in track again after not having it.
Boy, that's for sure. Well, let's bring on our 3rd guest, if you will. And ladies, you have been there, and Micah will tell you he came close. He got as close as one can get with not getting there. 11th in the regional. Everybody knows the guy who was 11th in the regional. So all indications, though, that next year, now they're going to be vying for one of the top spots of the regional, but you have to consider him one of the favorites for the Nationals this year coming up. He was Illinois state champ in cross country and in track at 3200. Micah Wilson. Micah, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, so my question for the 3 of you is that, you know, we have had an unusual year, but we're just talking with Mr. Hankus a minute ago about things are getting back to normal. Are you guys approaching the summer just like are we back to normal? Is it back to normal for you? Are you doing your training just like you would? Is your preparation, your goals, your training changed? Or are we back to where we normally are? And if we could, Abby, let's start with you. Are you back to normal?
Slowly. I mean, obviously, like Michigan here is not quite normal and stuff, but honestly, through cross and stuff last year, it wasn't that different. Track was a little different for me this year because I broke my toe, so that definitely set everything back quite a bit. But like in general, like I've still been able to like my coach at different tracks because we don't have a track. Practice more or less of the team for the short time I was with the team this year. Yeah, so this year definitely has been a little odd. I really haven't had much of a track season kind of my whole high school career. So that's been a little weird, but yeah, like as far as it is getting more back to normal, which is really nice.
That's good. How about you, for Riley? How's it been? Are you back to normal?
Yeah, it's pretty much back to normal. Like it's a little weird because track finished so late this year because it went like all the way through the summer, but it's pretty much back to normal in Colorado. I'm actually going to a high altitude camp in like 2 weeks. So that will be fun. And then I'll get ready for the season.
All right. Micah, how about you?
Yeah, it's been pretty much normal. It's just been a little delayed just because the track went so late. So I haven't quite gotten back into training after the track season ended since it just ended like 2 weeks ago for me. So like a week and a half ago. So I'll just It's been mostly back to normal, but just a little delayed. So it'll be good by like postseason.
Did you and your coach take the same amount of normal time you take after a track season before you start getting ready for cross country?
Yeah, pretty much. Just I'd say we usually take like 2 weeks off. I might start running like this week, so it might just be a week and a half. So
very good.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you guys kind of the same question, but it's different because a lot of times we see at Foot Locker in the girls' race at regionals, it's kind of get to that finish line first. And on the guys' side, it seems like, and maybe it isn't always this case, but it does seem like there's a little bit more strategy where they're just thinking top 10. So, you know, it might be more of a sit and kick, or it might be a guy lets up when they know that they're in. So Abby and Riley, you guys go first. How important is it for you guys to make the team to go to, or make the regionals to go to the Foot Locker championships? And how big is it for you to win the regionals? Because I think that's one of my biggest accomplishments, is winning the Midwest region. But I know that some people think differently about it. So Abby, why don't you start?
Yeah, I honestly, Foot Locker, like the San Diego itself, I always get really worked up about it. But my coach is always, it's just icing on the cake. Like the hardest work you did, like Kenosha is by far the most terrifying, because like, you know, if you don't make it here, you don't get to go there. So yeah, and when I crossed the line in first place, I think I was the most shocked person there, because I previously had been I was like, I had been kind of tanked with my iron. At state I ran a whole minute slower than what I should have been, and we're like, what is happening? So I was terrified to race again. I had not raced since then, and I somehow all of a sudden won the regional, and that was like, whoa. But yeah, so definitely the regional is way more scarier. And yeah, I don't love the strategy game normally. I'm much more of a let's just go out there and run as hard as you can. I enjoy racing with Caitlin Hart a lot for that, because she normally goes right out.
Yeah,
and I like that.
How about you, Riley?
Yeah, for the girls race, I don't really think it was much about strategy, because like at this point, like all the girls are just trying to qualify. Like it's such a like stacked field, like it always is. So you kind of have to give it your all every single time you go there. But Kenosha is like such a like a competitive course. Like it really brings out the best in everyone, because it's kind of hard with all the hills. But like it really brings out the best in everyone. And like me and Abby both like run it like 2 times, freshman and sophomore year. And to like be by her, like we're such good friends actually. Like we've been like connected through Foot Locker, and like we just keep coming back to the regional. Like, come on, Abby, we can do it. We can go back to back. But yeah, it's such an amazing opportunity. And honestly, it's just so good. It's such a great course, an amazing event.
I love that you guys said that. Like you will be forever friends because of Foot Locker. Really, it's super cool. Micah, how about you? Like, what was your mindset going in last year? I know you had that 11th place, but were you thinking strategy? Were you thinking, you know, just being the top 10? Walk us through your race a little bit.
Yeah, I was just really hoping that I could like be in top 10. I didn't really have necessarily a strategy, especially like when conditions are like that. It's kind of hard to like strategize, because the race could play out like so many different ways. So I was just trying to qualify, and I mean, I just got dropped probably with like a quarter mile to go, and so that's when I was just trying to just stay in like 11th place, just in case like anything happened. But I was really just going for top 10. I wouldn't really say there was a strategy behind it. But
have you been dreaming about being in the top 10 ever since?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It's definitely fueled me. So
yeah.
Evan Jager was 11th too. He was potentially the top returnee his senior year, and he had a bad day at regionals and finished 11th his senior year. That's it. All these regionals are so competitive, especially Midwest girls. I mean, you could just get up on the wrong side of bed or just fall asleep for 5 seconds in the race, and that can be the race.
Yeah, the Midwest girls come battle hardened, don't they? That's for sure. My gosh. That's for darn sure. Well, hey, Micah, so if you haven't been to the course ever, right? So you're going to make it this year. We're putting money on it. All right, so let's take a little advice here. We'll let Riley go first on this one. So Riley, what's the advice? How do you run that course well? The San Diego course, the national course.
Yeah, it's such a it's a crazy national course. Like I'd say it's like one of the harder ones for sure. Like there's like this hill that you have to go to that's twice in like the middle of it. And it really just like pushes you to the limit. Like that's where like all like separation goes. So honestly, my advice is to just enjoy the moment, like just like not stress it out about it as much. And to also like, once you get to that hill, just be like, this is my last race and just to push it really hard. But like, honestly, just enjoy the moment. That's like the biggest part of it for me.
Abby, any good advice? You've been there twice already.
Yeah. I would say I'm with Riley here. I mean, that is one hard course. I remember watching the video of it and being like, I think I pretty much walked up that hill. Oh my goodness. Well, I would say for advice, make sure you're hammering the hill workouts the week before and the weeks before, and use your downhills. Before I didn't ever learn, like I wasn't good at going downhill. I would reserve myself so much, but like you'll see if you race it right when you get started in like the dog park area, that area is slightly downhill. So like use that. And then obviously you go up this massive hill and you expect to come down a really good hill and you just don't. It's so short. But you have to use that too. And just, yeah. And I'm with Riley. Like it's the last race. You just got to go out there and know like I can destroy myself and I thoroughly intend to, and like don't leave anything there.
All right, Micah, when you win, Carrie will be doing the interview. So you're going to have to thank Riley and Abby. Okay. You'll do that at the interview?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I love it.
Hey, Peter, you know, they're talking about running that downhill. You remember Bob Kennedy's year when you're coming down that downhill at Opus Drive there?
Yep, he went over, got up, and I mean, that's happened to a few people over the years. And that's what elite running's about. If something happens, get right back up, get right back in it. It's not necessarily the end of the world. It's, you know, it's a mental thing. And again, that's the whole thing with that race. There's so much hype at nationals and everybody gets so intense the first part of the race and the big hill like you guys talked about. But in my opinion, it's coming into the second loop, that long gradual uphill. That's a start. That's where people who went out too fast die. There's nobody back there. I think I'm the only person on the back part of the course. And that's really where I think the race is made. Or obviously, if you're in a duel with someone, it makes a difference. But generally speaking, you have to be ready to keep pounding it at 1.5 miles because people who went out too fast, they die there and there's nobody cheering for them. And you can do some serious damage from 1.5 miles to 2.5.
All right, a little strategy from the Midwest. I hope Doug Todd in the West and Phil in the Northeast and Max are watching so they can share that information with everybody. That would be good. Abby, you're absolutely right on that hill. You were talking about what Peter Simon, when Bob Kennedy fell, he rolled, actually went into a roll and just kept on going. So got to be ready for anything. Boy, oh boy. So anyway, thank you so much. We're just at the end of our hour here. I want to thank you, Abby, especially, and Riley and Micah. It's a delight. It's so much fun to be talking the sport again, isn't it? Isn't it great to be thinking about it, huh? All right. Yeah. So Micah, when you're running there in Kenosha and it's raining and it's 48 degrees, just think San Diego, 75 and sunny, and the biggest, whitest beach you've ever seen. So you can hang out there, okay? Sound good?
Yeah.
All right. We want to thank you, all four of you. Peter, thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you this summer in San Diego. And Abby and Riley and Micah, thank you. And Carrie, as always, it's a pleasure. We'll see Carrie this weekend. She's been doing the American Track League on TV. If you haven't seen her, you got to tune in and see Carrie on TV. She'll be there the next couple of weekends. So I want to thank everybody, all you folks for joining us. JJ and Hazel Clark, that was great. Olympics in 2 weeks. And we will be back on August 11th. That's 2 days after the closing ceremonies. So we'll be talking about Grant Fisher and Molly Seidel and Emily Sisset and all those folks. And, you know, and then 8 years, 12 years from now, we're talking about Abby, Micah, and Riley too. So anyway,
love it.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Good night. And we'll see you on August 11th. Good night, everybody.